Talk of a major cabinet shakeup at the Trump White House reached a fever pitch today, with multiple reports suggesting that Rex Tillerson will lose his job as Secretary of State. But when the president was asked just this morning if Tillerson is on the way out, well, he didn't exactly answer the question.
Mr. President, do you want Rex Tillerson on the job, Mr. President?
He's here. Rex is here.
Tillerson was, in fact, in the room at that time. So is he in or out of the job? The ouster of the former ExxonMobil CEO has been rumored since, well, at least September. That's when the president started publicly undercutting his diplomatic efforts, especially with North Korea. Then there were those reports in October that Tillerson called Trump a moron. His rumored replacement as Secretary of State, well, that would be the CIA director and Trump loyalist Mike Pompeo, with Republican Senator Tom Cotton taking over from him at the spy agency. Okay, quite the shell game. Let's bring in the CBC's Keith Boag now to try and make some sense of it. What is actually going on here, do you think, Keith?
Well, I think the important thing to know is that all of this information and all of this speculation is coming from inside the White House, and deliberately so. There is even a White House source telling media tonight that this is a public shaming. Now, of course, what they say publicly and on the record is very different. Here's Sarah Huckabee Sanders talking to reporters today. She's the White House spokesperson.
When the president loses confidence in someone, they will no longer serve in the capacity that they're in. The president was here today with the Secretary of State. They engaged in a foreign leader visit and are continuing to work together to close out what we've seen to be an incredible year.
Okay, Rosemary, the first thing to point out is that at the very beginning of her comments, she suggests more or less that if the president were unhappy with Rex Tillerson wouldn't be here. Yeah. But of course, that's not true. We've learned over the last 10 months that this is exactly the way that the president deals with people when he's unhappy with them. He leaks information so that people know he's unhappy. He may even go so far as to leak information about who he might replace that person with when he gets rid of them. We saw it with Sean Spicer, the press secretary. We saw it with Reince Priebus, the former chief of staff. He even tried to do it with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. So we've seen this before.
Yeah, it is a pattern at this point. I think that's fair. So until he leaves, if he leaves, how effective can Tillerson possibly be as Secretary of State?
Well, I mean, he hasn't been very effective in that role to begin with, and not simply because Trump has undercut him, as Trump has actually undercut him since the very beginning. But Tillerson has not been effective in that job. But it is now clear to the world that he is not speaking for the president, that the president is unhappy with him, that Tillerson's been hung out to dry. So tonight he must surely be thinking about what options does he have, and he may have only one, which would be to quit. We'll see.
And it'll be an issue that resonates here in Ottawa too, Keith, because Chrystia Freeland has spent a lot of time establishing that relationship between the two of them, and if he's gone, she'll have to start again from ground zero. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. The CBC's Keith Boag in Washington. So if Rex Tillerson does get fired, he would become the latest high-profile exit from the Trump administration since he took office in January. The president has already pushed out his national security advisor, Michael Flynn. He dramatically fired the FBI director, James Comey, in May. Press Secretary Sean Spicer resigned after communications director Anthony Scaramucci was appointed. The mooch lasted 11 days. Health Secretary Tom Price was sacked. Steve Bannon left as White House chief strategist and went back to work at Breitbart News. Walter Schaub, government ethics director, quit. Even the chief usher, Angela Reed, was let go shortly after Trump moved into the White House. In all, 16 people have so far resigned or have been fired from the 10-month-old Trump administration besieged by controversy.